That would be the ingredient which would confirm this geographical rotation between Europe and the US. And we will have probably to see just after the French elections to have these confirmations.
Welcome back, Bruno.
Good morning, yes.
Now, there seems to be a lot of anxiety in the financial markets. Can you shed some light on this situation for us?
Yes, let's first look at the background. We've got here a chart of oil on the down part of the chart, and on the top part, the orange dotted line is the interest rates. And since March, basically, it went down from 260 to 218. And at the same time, oil has been moving from the top of its range down to its support trend line at 47, and it's moving back up. If bonds were basically doing well, it's a time where, at the same time, the equity, in the equity area, there was some corrections. And if we look now from this rebound of oil, we see that it is not alone, but it comes also together with what's happening on copper. Since March, there was kind of sideways wave trial to break down and immediate rebound. So we are basically on a normal path with oversold indicator indicating that commodity side is probably bottoming.
But emerging markets like China now, they seem to be declining. Should we be worried?
Well, we know commodities are kind of bottoming. We also noticed, in fact, if we look back to the beginning of March, that relative strength of emerging market versus, for example, China here versus the S&P 500 was moving up. Also, it was making higher highs. And it's only recently that it's only a bit of profit taking, where we have basically here made a small low here within the clouds on the China side. If we look at India, for example, we still have a very strong uptrend and only a pause on this uptrend with already oversold indicators. And if we look at Brazil, which was a little bit underperforming these two first, now it's been outperforming a little bit these two, with also an outperformance versus the S&P 500. So here it is more of a rotation.
Now, how's the Nikkei's performance been doing in Asia?
Well, besides emerging markets, which were doing well, on the other hand, the correction took place clearly in Japan. Here we have a clear downtrend for all of the months of March. And we see that correlates very well with the orange line, which was rising, which is the strength of the yen. So it's no surprise that the relative strength of the Nikkei versus the S&P 500 was coming down. Where are we now? We are at 18,200. This is close to what we were in December. So potentially bottoms, which is suggested as well by the momentum or a small bullish divergence on the stochastic oscillator. So here, again, most of the correction is probably over.
Now, the uptrend on the Euro stock, has that broken yet?
Well, it's probably over short term. As we noticed that while there was a correction in the equity, in the S&P, we see here higher highs and higher lows, so that there was no downtrend at all in the Euro stocks. On the contrary, the relative strength was also moving up strongly. Now it's probably a correction which has been coming with a sideways move for the relative strengths, and here just breaking the trend line. But it's coming close to some support area, so it's already oversold, so I'm not sure it's very dramatic. I think it is just a geographical rotation between Euro stocks and Europe and the US.
So are you really optimistic for the S&P 500 at this stage?
Taking some long-term view, if you take at the weekly charts, we have now 18 months of data here. We have this top at 2400 in the 1st of March almost. And then a first test in mid-March and a second test 2 weeks later. And during this second test, people were a bit more anxiety. Were fearful, and we see this fear reflected in the VIX index on the dotted line, moving up from 11 to 16%. And now it's pulling back. That probably suggests that there will be a rebound from here. We're also close to the long-term 20 weeks moving average. And we see here the oscillator is really on the oversold side on a weekly basis. So it's time to look at the daily charts. And the daily chart shows something similar. It's also very oversold right now on a daily basis. It has made a kind of a reversal up on Monday, and it should probably hold very well this gap area between 23.25 and 23.15. So this is a strong support area.
So what do we need for the S&P sector to allocate a rebound?
Right, it's not only the index itself, but it's what happened within the index, which is important. And here we have two things. In green, we have the interest rates moving down, as we have noticed before, and also this black line, which is the ratio of discretionary versus staples. So in other words, here we have cyclicals which are starting to underperform the defensive. And what we need really now is, after a bottom in mid-March, where cyclicals started to outperform a little bit defensive, we have a pullback of about 50–60%. So right now we would need to have a turn up again in the coming days, which correspond to the fact that the momentum of this ratio is oversold and turning up. Also, what we need is that the leading sectors, which is the technology sector, continue to outperform. This is the case already since mid-April. Relative strength is rebounding versus the S&P 500, and we have hit a bottom support area around 52, and we are moving back up. So that's a good thing that this leading sector is rebounding and leading. And also we would like some of the sector which is hindering the market so far, namely the financials, with this declining relative strength versus the S&P 500 for now, since the beginning of March, basically, that it stops there. Stops where it's make a double bottom here, breaking its downtrend line, and at the same time finding some support close to the former supports and moving back up. That would be the ingredient which would confirm this geographical rotation between Europe and the US. And we will have probably to see just after the French elections to have these confirmations.
Well, thank you, Bruno, for joining us in the studio. As always, it's a pleasure.
You're welcome.
And thank you at home for clicking back. If you want to watch more episodes with myself and Bruno, be sure to subscribe to our channel.